Welcome to Circle Sanctuary's longest night celebration. And thanks to Chris Eldridge for our Yuletide flute music gathering us together. My name is Reverend Selena Fox. I'm senior minister at Circle Sanctuary, which is a nature spirituality church serving Wiccans, Druids, heathens, pagans, and other nature spirituality folk worldwide since 1974. Longest Night is continuing on a tradition that we began shortly after Circle Sanctuary emerged in the 1970s. And we have been doing a multicultural, interreligious winter solstice celebration at various places throughout the year. This is the first time over the years that we're doing our longest night, our winter solstice celebration via cyberspace. So I want to welcome everyone who is joining us live, and to all of you who will be watching us later. And I want to give a special appreciation to our tech team, Jeanette and David Ewing, Circle Sanctuary ministers from Northern Virginia, and Bob Paxton, Circle Sanctuary minister from Wisconsin. We are here to celebrate Winter Solstice Eve, the longest night, but we're also here to celebrate Yuletide as the happy holidays season that it is across the ages, across cultures, across the world. And tonight, we will be sharing with you expressions of holiday reflection and cheer from a variety of traditions, from a variety of eras, from a variety of forms, words, music, and reflections. I invite you all now, wherever you may be, to connect with the sacred according to your own path or tradition. I will play this singing bowl, and let us honor the divine as one and as many, and invite that sacred force and forces to be with each of us and us collectively. We honor the powers of the sacred north, the sacred east, the sacred south, the sacred west. We honor the powers of the planet that is our home. We honor the powers of the cosmos that is part of that universe of which we're all part. We honor the great spirit that's within us and around us, the interconnecting force of light. We honor the sacred circle of solstice. Circle of light, circle of sound, circle of solstice, circle around, circle of light, circle of sound, circle of solstice, circle around, circle of light, circle of sound, circle of solstice, circle around. And I invite my husband and partner, Dennis, to take us into our multicultural Solstice Eve celebration.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Dennis Carpenter in Wisconsin. Winter solstice has been celebrated by people in a variety of cultures around the world. and it is mentioned in some writings from antiquity, such as the 5,000-year-old oracle from China, the I Ching, the Book of Changes. I'm going to be reading tonight from hexagram 24, entitled Fu, Return, the Turning Point. The judgment, return, success, going out and coming in without error. Friends come without blame. To and fro goes the way. On the seventh day comes return. It furthers one to have somewhere to go. The idea of a turning point arises from the fact that after the dark lines have pushed all of the light lines upward and out of the hexagram, another light line enters the hexagram from below. The time of darkness is past. The winter solstice brings the victory of light. This hexagram is lined with the 11th month, the month of the solstice. The image, thunder within the earth, the image of the turning point. Thus, the kings of antiquity closed the passes at the time of solstice. Merchants and strangers did not go about, and the ruler did not travel through the provinces. The winter solstice has always been celebrated in China as the resting time of the year, a custom that survives in the time of rest observed at the new year. In winter, the life energy symbolized by thunder, the arousing, is still underground. Movement is just at its beginning. Therefore, it must be strengthened by rest so that it will not be dissipated by being used prematurely. This principle, that of allowing energy that is renewing itself to be reinforced by rest, applies to all similar situations. The return of health after illness, the returning of understanding after an estrangement, everything must be treated tenderly and with care at the beginning, so that the return may lead to a flowering. I'd like to comment on the themes of rest and flowering mentioned in this hexagram. So at this time of rest, pause to connect with the energy of solstice, to commune deeply with the cycles of nature, to connect with the energy of darkness and light, to experience your profound interconnectedness to the rest of the natural world. And yes, to celebrate as well. In the flowering that is to come, as the days grow longer, experience the wellness that comes with ongoing experience in attuning to the rest of the natural world, of connecting to the cycles of nature. May your mind and heart be rejuvenated in your connections with nature. Also in this flowering, act on your commitment to living sustainably. Reflect on that commitment and act on it. Working to help prevent further catastrophic climate change in all the ways that you can. It's been a rough year, as we all know. May this time of rest and reflection help us put this all in its proper perspective. And in the flowering time to come, may we do the things that will help us return to the ways of life that we've been used to in the past. Blessed be and Happy New Year.
And we welcome Bree into our longest night celebration.
Hi, I'm Bree Ravenwolf. I'm from Holly, New York. I'm going to be reading 3 poems. The first one is called Blessings for the Longest Night. It's from Jan Richardson. And it's also from actually a book called The Cure for Sorrow. All throughout these months, as the shadows have lengthened, this blessing has been gathering itself, making ready, preparing for this night. It has practiced walking in the dark, traveling with its eyes closed, feeling its way by memory, by touch, by the pull of the moon, even as it wanes. So believe me when I tell you this blessing will reach you even if you have not light enough to read it. It will find you, even though you cannot see it coming. You will know the moment of its arriving by your release of the breath you have held so long. A loosening of the clenching in your hands, of the clutch around your heart, a thinning of the darkness that had drawn itself around you. This blessing does not mean to take the night away, but it knows its hidden roads, knows the resting spots along the path, knows what it means to travel in the company of a friend. So when this blessing comes, take its hand, get up, set out on the road that you cannot see. This is the night when you trust that any direction you go, you will be walking toward the dawn. My second reading is a poem for the winter solstice by the Velveteen Rabbi. It's called The Longest Night. We all tell stories about grief to come, anticipating the dark. We think, how can I live without the sun I turn toward? We wrest what gifts we can from the dying days. One morning we wake, and the doorway we most dreaded is behind us. The ice may not recede for months to come, but day by day, may there be more light. My last reading is actually from a song called The Longest Night of the Year, lyrics by Myra Chapin Carpenter. They say that spring will come again. No one knows exactly when. Still the sun's a long-lost friend on the longest night of the year. We stare into the firelight while December beats outside, where the darkest hearts reside. On the longest night of the year, so keep me safe and hold me tight. Let the candle burn all night. Tomorrow, welcome back the night. It was the longest night of the year. I used to think the world was small, bright and shining like a ball. Seems I don't know much at all on the longest night of the year. We press our faces to the glass and see our little lives go past. Wave to shadows that we cast on the longest night of the year. So keep me safe and hold me tight. Let the candle burn all night. Tomorrow, welcome back the light. 'Twas the longest night of the year. Make a vow when solstice comes to find the light in every one. Keep the faith and bang the drum on the longest night of the year. So keep me safe and hold me tight. Let the candle burn all night. Tomorrow, welcome back the light. 'Twas the longest night of the year. So keep me safe and hold me tight. Let the candle burn all night. Tomorrow, welcome back the light after the longest night of the year. So mote it be.
And we welcome Georgette into our longest night celebration.
Thank you. My name is Georgette Paxton, and I'm a reverend with Circle Sanctuary living in Madison, Wisconsin. And tonight we're gathering virtually as the air is growing more crisp and cold outside. This is a time when we work hard to keep ourselves warm and our houses in order and our lives full. This month, for many of us, entails a lot of hard work to prepare and ready ourselves for the celebrations, especially in most normal non-COVID years. And it's also a month of joy found in our connections with friends and loved ones, particularly those whose space we share in this time of closeness. So at this time in winter, we may honor the goddess in many guises. And in this piece that I'll read with you, I'll be honoring her in her guise as Frahala. According to lore, Frahala is an old woman who lived in the forests of Germany. She always wore black, as widows often do, and she was an industrious woman, always spinning and weaving at her loom. And she was always baking bread in her great stone oven. It's said that when she shook out her bed, the feathers fell as snow to blanket the earth. She's a changer of the seasons, a spinner of the earth, a maker of ourselves. Frahala is a crone of the winter, of hard work and dedication. Frahala lived by the forest and she lived by the seasons, mixing medicines with the herbs of her land, curing villagers of their ills when they came to her for healing. And her oven is the cauldron of creativity, the womb where new forms take on life. Though Frahala is strong and capable, she's a grandmother, and as such, she requires our aid in her work. So we toil for her and make our lives orderly, because when the moon is full, she comes to look at our life work to see what we've woven from the thread she gave us. She'll inspect our house for order and our relationships and our accomplishments. The industrious among us are rewarded well. And if she finds you lacking, she'll make more disorder and mess for you to force you out of your old patterns. Frahala is ancient, yet it's she who requires and inspires new growth. So in that vein, I'm going to read to you a short fairy tale by the Brothers Grimm called Frahala that really illustrates her gifts and her gifts to us as a people. So, a widow had two daughters. One was beautiful and industrious, the other was homely and lazy. The widow greatly favored the lazy girl because she was her own daughter, and the other lovely one had to do all the hard work and be the Cinderella of the house. Every day the poor girl had to sit by a well and spin so much that her fingers bled. Now it happened that one day the reel was bloody from her hands, so she dipped it in the well to wash it off, but the spinning wheel dropped out of her hand and fell in. She cried and ran to her stepmother and told her of the mishap. Her stepmother scolded her sharply, and she said, "Since you've let it fall in, you must fetch it out again yourself." So the girl went back to the well, and she didn't know what to do. Terrified, she jumped in the well to get her spinning reel back. She was knocked senseless. And then when she woke again, she was in a beautiful meadow where the sun was shining and there were thousands of flowers. She walked across this meadow and came to an oven full of bread. The bread called out, "Oh, take me out, or I'll burn. I've been thoroughly baked for a long time." So she stepped up to it and took everything out, one loaf after the other. After that, the girl walked further and she came to a tree laden with apples. shake me, we apples are all ripe," they cried. So she shook the tree until the apples all fell as though it were raining apples. And when none were left in the tree, she gathered them into a pile and continued on her way. Finally, she came to a small house where an old woman was peering out from inside. She had very large teeth, which frightened the girl, but the old woman called out to her, "Don't be afraid, dear child. Stay here with me, and if you do my housework in an orderly fashion, it will go well with you. Only you must take care to make my bed well and shake it diligently until the feathers fly. Then it will snow in the world. I am Frahala." And to this day in Germany, whenever it snows, they say Frahala is making her bed. Because the old woman spoke so kindly to her, the girl took heart and agreed and started her service in Frahala's house. She took care of everything to Frahala's satisfaction and always shook her feather bed vigorously until the feathers flew about like snowflakes. So she had a good life with her, no angry words, and good food to eat every day. Now, after she'd been with Frahala for a time, the girl became sad. At first, she didn't know why, but then she realized she was homesick. Even though she was so much better off here than at home with her stepmother, still she had a yearning to return. Finally, she told the old woman, "I have such a longing for home, and even though I'm very well off here, I can't stay. I must go up again to my own people." Frahala said, I'm pleased that you long for your home again, and because you've served me so faithfully, I will take you back myself. And with that, she took her by the hand and led her to a large gate. The gate opened, and while the girl was standing under it, a rain of gold fell so that she was completely covered with it. This is yours because you've been so industrious, said Frahala. And at the same time, she gave the girl back the spinning reel, which had fallen into the well. With that, the gate was closed, and the girl found herself above on earth, not far from her mother's house. And as she entered the yard, the rooster, sitting on the well, cried, "Cock-a-doodle-doo! Our golden girl is here anew!" Then she went inside, and as she arrived all covered with gold, she was well received both by her mother and her sister. The girl told all that had happened to her, and when the stepmother heard how had come to her wealth, she wanted the same fortune for her other lazy daughter. So she made the daughter sit by the well and spin. To make the reel bloody, the lazy girl shoved her hand into a thorn bush and pricked her fingers. Then she threw the reel into the well and jumped in herself. Like the first girl, she too came to a beautiful meadow and walked along the same path. And when she came to the oven, the bread cried again, "Oh, take me out, or else I'll burn. I've been thoroughly baked for a long time." But the lazy girl answered, "As if I'd want to get all dirty," and walked away. Soon she came to the apple tree, and it cried out, "Oh, shake me, we apples are all ripe." But the girl answered, "So one can fall on my head?" And with that, she walked on. When she came to Frau Hala's house, she wasn't afraid because she already heard about her fearsome appearance, and she immediately began to work for her. On the first day, the girl forced herself and was industrious and obeyed Frau Hala's every demand because she was thinking about all the gold that would be given to her. But on the second day, she already began to be lazy, and on the third day, even more so, and she didn't even want to wake up in the morning. She didn't make the bed for Frau Hala, and she didn't shake it until the feathers flew. Frau Hala soon became tired of this and dismissed the girl of her duties. This was just what the lazy girl wanted, for she thought that she would now get the rain of gold. Frau Hala led her to the gate. She stood beneath it, and instead of gold, a large kettle full of pitch spilled all over the girl. "This is the reward for your services," said Frau Hala, and closed the gate. The lazy girl then went home entirely covered in pitch. As soon as the rooster on the well saw her, he cried out, "Cock-a-doodle-doo! Our dirty girl is here anew!" And the pitch stuck fast to her and did not come off as long as she lived. The end. So with that, I have an invocation to Frau Hala that I'd like to share with you that I wrote many years ago. And it's a good Yule invocation because it's really a seasonal touch to the stories and the lore that we tell on the longest night. This is traditionally a time where people stay up all night telling stories to each other, spinning yarns, and they can be even ghost stories or legends. But at this point, I'm going to share with you this invocation. Lady, we call you now as Frau Hala, wise spinner, baker of the loaves of our lives. You who dwells in the shining moon reflected in the still waters of the well. The black of your skirts swirling through the night sky as you move among your tasks. Be welcome here as we hold rites in your honor. We look into the web spun upon your loom, goddess, and see ourselves woven in the fine fabric of spirit. As your spinning wheel turns, so does the world, grandmother. The air scented by the warmth of the magic bacon in your oven. Frau Hala, we humbly ask the blessing of your presence this Yule season. Thank you.
And we welcome next Steve into our longest night celebration.
Hello all. I'm Steve Curtin, and I come to you from the suburbs of Detroit, Michigan. And I will be doing some drumming and electronic meditation and also a poem by a British poet named Jenny Blaine. And I'll start this off with a variation on a Buddhist saying that they used to say before at sesshin we would go meditating all night, which is, "Even as night darkens the cold earth, the wheel turns." Now follows the dark time. Gray stones, night's chill falling, owls flower-faced calling winter and old friends. As wind gathers, rustling dry dead flowers from heather, rattling broom seeds, shifting now between the worlds, wait, between year and season, between known and unknown, turnings, change, year's end. Harvest made, we gather, shape and sort, assemble, sift tales of our season, spun from joy or sadness, crafting song and legend, stories to attend. On the cairn, leaves new spread, new dead, over long dead bones in barrow, bearing stories of the years past, living tales and sped, our deeds, their rememberings, merging here our beings, self or legend. Lives turn, seed to earth our year's work. Wait the new year's growing, join our hopes ahead. So now comes the wanderer, worlds walking by barrow, stone, or stream, or city, hearing song and story, hoarding deed and meaning, words that lie in weird.
We welcome Laura to our longest night celebration.
Hi, everybody, and my name is Laura Gonzalez. I am in the land, standing in the land of the Potawatomi, the Menominee, and the Miami, and originally from Mexico City, the land of the Mexica Tenochca. And today on The Longest Night, I want to share with you about the winter solstice. I truly enjoy sharing these stories of our First Nations because the similarities with our pagan traditions help me strengthen my faith. The god of war, according to legend, Huitzilopochtli, was born to Coatlicue, Mother Earth, who became pregnant by means of a ball of feathers or a bluish cotton that fell from the sky while she was sweeping the temples of the Tolan, a mountain range. Huitzili means hummingbird, and Opochtli, left. Huitzilopochtli literally means is the hummingbird on the left side. As an astronomical concept, Huitzilopochtli is the southern hummingbird, or the left hummingbird, referring to the morning sun that rises more times from its left side than from its right side, beginning the morning shift at the winter solstice until reaching the summer solstice, rising in these latitudes less times on the right side. In human beings, it activates and encourages beings with strength and energy to live the daily struggle. It is agile and fast, and it has dexterity, intelligence to overcome obstacles, and it influences the decision-making capacity and willpower of humans. And now I will switch to Spanish. Decía yo que me gusta mucho compartir con ustedes estas historias porque en las historias de nuestras primeras naciones o de nuestros pueblos nativos y sus similitudes con las tradiciones paganas ayudan a fortalecer mi fe. El dios de la guerra, según la leyenda Huitzilopochtli, nació de Coatlicue, la madre tierra, quien quedó embarazada por medio de una bola de plumas o algodón azulino que cayó del cielo mientras barría los templos de la Sierra de Tolán. Huitzili significa colibrí y Opochtli, izquierdo. Huitzilopochtli literalmente significa es el colibrí del lado izquierdo. Como concepto astronómico, Huitzilopochtli es el colibrí sureño o colibrí izquierdo, refiriéndose al sol de la mañana que sale más veces de su lado izquierdo que de su lado derecho, comenzando el desplazamiento matinal en el solsticio de invierno hasta llegar al solsticio de verano, saliendo de estas latitudes menos veces de su lado derecho. En los seres humanos, activa y anima a los seres con fuerza y energía para vivir la lucha cotidiana. Es ágil y veloz, tiene la destreza e inteligencia para sortear obstáculos, influye en la capacidad de decisión y la fuerza de voluntad. In the song to Huitzilopochtli from the book 2 of Sahagún, it is clearly perceived that he is the rising sun. En el canto a Huitzilopochtli del libro 2 de Sahagún, se percibe claramente que él es el sol naciente. And here I will adventure myself again to speak a traditional chant in 3 different languages. I am not going to sing it because I don't know the tune, but I will do and try to honor my ancestors with this chant for Huitzilopochtli. And may Huitzilopochtli help us soar through the obstacles of the coming year, gives us the strength and the ability to be dexterous and to have the willpower and capacity to live our best life on 2021. Huitzilopochtli yaketl ayaia, ahko inain in awiwiwia, anen nikwik toskemitl, kenyanoka oyatonac. Huitzilopochtli, joven guerrero, el que arriba anda en su camino. Me he puesto el ropaje de plumas amarillas, voy llevando el brillo y el calor. Huitzilopochtli, young warrior, he who above walks on his way. I have put on the yellow feather garment. I am carrying the brightness and the heat. May the heat of Huitzilopochtli bless us all. Happy solstice.
And we invite back into our longest night, Chris.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Chris Eldridge, and I am coming to you from Wisconsin. And tonight I share with you an original story. It is set within a time that is, that was, that may have been. It was cold, colder than it had been for many a season. And this year, Yule would not be well attended. There were snow, and there was illness within the land. Families stayed to themselves and could not join in the larger activities to which they were used to. I, bard of my village, was directly affected by this, for my lord was ill, and it was likely that he would pass to the Summerlands very soon. The rites yet had to be maintained. The sun needed to be called back, and the vigil kept throughout the night. Knowing that I could do nothing more for my village other than to maintain this rite, I prepared myself for the long, slow climb up the hill to the stone circle. Now the ceremony was to be performed at just the right moment. I would climb the hill the spiral way as the sun was low in the sky, and the path as it sinks ever closer to the horizon, until I were to reach the summit at exactly that moment when the sun fell below the horizon. The path itself winds around the hill back and forth like a serpent's coil. It's a long path, and its twisting is designed to calm the mind and the soul. I reached the beginning of the way, and at that point, I saw the two guardian trees that stood along the way. I would pass through these trees and begin my long, slow climb. I had doubts. Would I be enough? Would my voice be strong enough to carry out and to call the sun back from its return and make the light return to the world? But I could not give in to these doubts, for the right had to be maintained. I started up the path, and along the way the snow was deep, and it was hard to take one step after another. In other places, the wind had blown the snow away from the path, and the walk was easy, but the cold was bitter. I wrapped my cloak around me and took another step. Finally, after pushing through a bank of snow that towered over my head, I found myself in the circle of stones. Had I made it in time? Had all my efforts to make it up the hill in time, had they been successful? Looking to the west, I breathed a sigh of relief. There upon the horizon was the last faint glimmer of the sun. I had made it, after all. Thankfully, the circle was clear of snow, for the wind that had created the last pile had cleared the circle. In the past, a great bonfire was lit within this circle to warm the singers through the night. Its light could be seen far out into the night, and all the people would know that the wheel was being turned. Tonight, it would only be myself. In a large fire I could not attend. A small one would have to do. We began setting the supplies for the fire around the time of Samhain, knowing that the weather may not cooperate in the days just before the darkest night. So it was not difficult to build that small fire, sheltered against the elements, close by the southernmost stone of the circle. Now, however, came the hard part. I must raise my voice in the song that had been sung by my people as long as the oldest person alive could remember. In the past, I was never alone in this task. Always there had been many, many others to share the song with. Each voice would blend to make a large sound to call the sun back. It was not an easy task, but no one would be singing all the time, for it was a shared responsibility. As a voice grew tired, another would join in and carry it, until that person too grew tired and another would join in. It was important that once the song had begun, it should not stop until the sun rose again. That was the magic of this night. I was afraid that my one small voice would fail before the sun returned. Yet it must be done. So I began to sing. Light is returning, light is returning from the darkest realms of night, bringing the days of ever-growing light. Softly at first, for I knew if I was to keep the song alive throughout the night, I must conserve my strength. Now this was more difficult than it may sound, for it had always been my joy to sing out loud and strong. Tonight I must hold back and let the power grow until the dawn. It was now full dark, and the stars were out. This night there would be no moon, for it happened that this year the longest night fell at the time when the moon hid her face from us. It was not the longest night, but the darkest as well. I kept the song alive, but knew that many more hours remained. And then, suddenly, I was not alone. There before me stood a woman. She was no one whom I knew. This woman was a stranger to me, and her clothes were strange as well. For while they appeared suitable to her, I'd never seen the likes before, and did not seem appropriate for a night as cold as this one. Her hair was long and golden reddish in color, and she was the most beautiful person I had ever seen. Our eyes met. She nodded at me and took up the song. Strong was her voice, and grateful was I for a chance to rest. I closed my eyes for a moment, and then when I opened them again, there were more people in the circle. A man now stood next to the woman. He, too, wore the blue cloak of a bard and was holding the lady's hand, though it seemed a great distance between them. Looking at me, he nodded as well and took up the song. Others were there in the circle, all strangers to me, yet they knew the song and sang it out strong. Having rested, I joined with them again, and this too I sang out strong. Joy was in my heart as the song continued. I knew that with this company of singers I could not fail. The sun would return, the wheel would turn. The sky began to lighten in the east, and I had not stopped singing since joining this great company. And then I received a great gift. I found standing there at my side, my Lord, my benefactor. He was dressed in his finest, and his voice sang out. Our eyes met, and we smiled at each other. I knew that this was the last time I would see him, and I was glad to sing with him one last time. It was working. Soon the song would end as the first light of the returning sun peeked over the eastern hills. We all turned and looked to the east that we might be the first to see its light. And there it was. Like a giant spark rising from a candle's flame, the sun returned, and I knew we had succeeded. As always, the song ended exactly as the sunlight was seen, and now it was all quiet. I looked around the circle that I might greet those who had helped me this night, but I was alone. No trace of the others who had shared the song with me remained, yet I knew they had not walked away. So I tell this story now to all who wish to hear it, hoping that someday it will reach the ears of those who sang with me that night. I hope that they will know the gratitude I owe them, and should they ever find themselves singing alone, I might find a way to be with them as they were with me on that strange night. Solstice blessings to each of you, and may you find the song.
And we welcome Judith into our longest night celebration.
Greetings. This is Judith from Chicago, Illinois, and I'm going to be singing you the Solstice Carol by Bunny Lou. The fire is burning, the long night draws near. All who need comfort are welcomed by here. We'll dance 'neath the stars and toast the past year, for the spirit of solstice is still living here. We'll count our life's blessings while the mother lays down, with snow as her blanket covering the ground. Thanks to the mother for the light that she brings. She'll awaken to warm us again in the spring. the poor and the hungry, the sick and the lost. These are our children, no matter the cost. Come by the fire, the harvest to share, for the spirit of justice is still living here. The fire is burning, the long night draws near. All who need comfort are welcomed by here. We'll dance 'neath the stars and toast the past year, for the spirit of solstice is still living here. The spirit of justice is still living here. The spirit of solstice is still living here. Blessed Yule to you all. Wishing you all a bright and beautiful, safe and happy New Year.
And now we welcome Cecilia into the longest night.
Hello. I'm Cecilia Farron. I'm from Spring Green, Wisconsin. I'm going to be reading an excerpt and an adaptation from a book called Ireland by Frank Delaney. It's the story, the winter solstice sun, as it rose and entered the earth at the Temple of Newgrange for the very first time. 5,000 years ago, a council of elders convened. The chief elder saying, "It is time to build something that will respect our ancestors and preserve spirit for our people through all time." There was much discussion, and finally a quiet visionary was called upon. In time, he became named the architect. With passion, he spoke of a vision he had received from the gods of a large monument of stone. Many called it a fool's task, but he ignored them, and he was commissioned to begin. For 15 years, almost a generation, he commanded the labor of teams of men to find and cut slabs of stone, discovering how to transport them, inscribe them, position them, and all the while calculating, telling no one his plans, keeping the magnitude of the final vision to himself. Can I do it, he wondered. Can I capture the sun to keep our ancestors warm? He alone it was who knew the magnitude of the gamble when he at last announced to the elders that the great unveiling would happen on the dawn of the winter solstice. They were pleased, of course, a great feast day, the moment of the year when their ancestors slept the deepest, yet none of them knew what to expect. On the eve of the great day, on the hillside, it teemed like an anthill. Tables out, pigs roasting, women and children lighting fires to burn through the night. And there was music as they danced themselves towards the coming dawn. Then, shortly before dawn, a procession of elders, led by the architect, in great ceremony, wound its way along the hillside, among the bonfires and the celebrations, until they reached the entrance. There were these were the few who would enter into the dark. They carried a rushlight in order to guide themselves through the passage, which was adorned with engraved designs in stone. The architect alone knew the immensity of the moment, the huge chance that was being taken. Would the light box above the door catch the rays of the rising sun? And would the sun even rise on this cloudy island to accept the invitation and traveled through the passageway into the earth to the back chamber and splashed to the large stone bowl. He wondered, was he mad? He'd made drawings in the mud, calculations of shadows across the grass, always holding to an inspired vision. He had commanded labor and talent unimaginable, and now here was the moment. The elders drew round the immense stone bowl. The architect blew out the light. He never took his eyes off the passageway. He waited, and then his heart to sink. Look, he whispered to the elders, look towards the door. Outside, the sun had started to climb over the ridge. Inside, the box opening over the door began to glow red gold, and a shaft of light beaming through it began to travel slowly towards them along the floor. Steadily, the light shone as it came down the passage. The golden light beamed slowly, as though honey flowing from high. The architect could scarcely believe it had worked. The sunbeam at last reached the edge of the black back chamber, and its yellow-orange light began to glow upward. It surged forward and splashed into the great stone bowl. It filled the dish exactly. It lay like a golden sphere. Outside, the sun had just cleared the dish. Then, as gently and miraculously as it had come, the sun retreated, slipping back down the passageway, sliding out the roof box to warm the rest of the room. In Ireland, on every clear-skied December solstice since, except for the centuries when grass had overgrown the tomb, that wondrous ray of light has responded to the great invitation. When it lies in the stone dish, it looks as though the sun, the greatest god of our skies, has now rendered itself sweet and mellow and come to earth for one golden hour.
And we welcome Casey into the longest night.
Hi, I'm Casey Pope from Colorado, and I'd like to share with you the Prophet Muhammad's prayer of light as a way of attuning to the divine light. I'll say the prayer in Arabic, followed by English, and there are gestures associated with each line of this. Feel free to imitate my gestures if you want to feel an increase in light in and around yourself. We'll begin in the heart. Allahumma ja'al fi qalbi nuran. O Divine One, God Allah, place in my heart light. Wa fi lisani nuran, and in my tongue, words, light. Wa fi sami nuran, and in my hearing, light. Wa fi basari nuran, and in my sight, light. Wa fawqi nuran, and above me, light. Wa tati nuran, and below me, light. Wa an yamini nuran, and on my right side, light. Wa an yashali nuran, and on my left side, light. Wa ma'ami nuran, and before me, light. Wa khalfi nuran, and behind me, light. Wa jali nuran, and expand for me this light. Wa asabi nuran, and in my nerves, light. Wa lami nuran, and in my body, my flesh, light. Wa dami nuran, and in my blood, light. Washari Naran, and in my hair, light. Wabashari Naran, and in my form, my being, light. Wajalthi Nafsi Naran, and place in my soul, my ego, light. Azidni Naran, Azidni Naran, Azidni Naran, increase me in light. Allahumma wahabli Naran ala nur. O Allah, give me light upon light. Solstice blessings to you.
And Maiden, we welcome into our longest.
This is a song that I wrote for winter solstice, and it's called Light. Just over the horizon, I see light. The darkness and cold of the night, it seeps deep into my bones. It makes me no longer one to fight. It makes me feel so alone. But light, light, the earth silent in slumber stirs deep beneath the snow. She waits in darkness no longer and wakes to a glistening show of light, light, light. I will
And we invite Sean Thomas to join our longest night.
Evening, everyone. Sean Thomas here from Bloomington, Illinois. And I wanted to share with you about how, review and explain how Santa is a wondrous amalgam of various gods. Santa Claus, the gifts and the tributes of Santa have shown over the last 190 years, have grown like a ball of snow rolling downhill. And Santa is celebrated and honored in my home in various guises and names. Having met and gotten to play Santa, I must tell you that I love this being. And even though I mentioned several beings that have become associated with Santa, I'm leaving out so many more, and I invite you to research this amazing entity. Saint Nicholas of Myra, of what is now southwest Turkey, was an early Christian bishop born in the 3rd century and is held nowadays to be the patron saint of, wait for it, sailors, merchants, archers, repentant thieves, prostitutes, children, brewers, pawnbrokers, unmarried people, and students of various cities in countries across Europe, including being the patron saint of the cities of Amsterdam and Moscow. Legend has it that he was able to save people from death with his wealth or bring them back from the dead with his healing powers. And thanks to his 19th century interpretations with Clement Moore's poem, The Night Before Christmas, and Thomas Nast's illustrations, Santa is the most recognized Western holiday icon this side of Hello Kitty. Santa takes on the attributes of various gods, depending kind of like how he comes to your town. Sometimes he comes from Myra by boat to Greece or Italy or Spain. He's a favorite of sailors, fishermen, ships, and sailings. He's become over time the patron saint of several cities with harbors. Nicholas is now seen as the Lord of the Sea, or a Christianized version of Poseidon, if you will. If he rides a goat or Yule Gnome, he is, or a goat-driven sleigh, he is likened to Thor, whose chariot was drawn by his two goats, Tooth Gnasher and Tooth Grinder. If he has a sleigh driven by deer or rides a horse across the sky, he's compared to Odin, Hern, Finnmakul, and Orun. And this is because riding across the sky in a sleigh with a team of deer is seen as a modern interpretation of the wild hunt. The Eight Reindeer from Clement Moore's poem are a reinterpretation of Odin's eight-legged steed Sleipnir, the Slippery. Many of the things that Santa does comes from the great god Odin, going around in disguise, wearing thick furs, leaving money or gifts after sneaking down the chimney, flying around the world in the dead of night. That's all Odin, who sometime at this time of year is called Langbar, Longbeard, or Yulnir, the Yule figure. Santa also shares many aspects of many favorite male pagan deities. He's the Holly King on the last night of his rule. He's the old year, giving way to the baby new year. He is also the Sol Invictus, or the unconquerable sun of ancient Rome that returns after the long solstice night. He is the Lord of Misrule on the night of Saturnalia, when everything gets turned on its head. A simple toy maker becomes the king of winter in this celebration. What other immortal being is beloved universally by children and adults everywhere? What other immortal being do we allow to come into our homes and hearts without question? In Russia, he's called Ded Moroz, or Grandfather Frost, and is accompanied by his granddaughter, the snow maiden, Snegorochka, who brings gifts and are known to drive away the Baba Yaga. Yule Tomten, the Yule Gnome, is the Denmark spirit that blesses the house and farm if you leave a bowl of porridge and milk on Christmas Eve. This mystical farm hand makes sure that all the livestock are safe during winter. His small form with the long beard and red cap have become the prototype of the garden gnome that we all love. Father Christmas has been an icon in English literature for many years. In Dickens' A Christmas Carol, he becomes the ghost of Christmas present, representing the joy of family and the celebration of wintertime. And that brings us to the name Kris Kringle. This is a German derivation of the German name Christkindl, which is Christ child. And the celebration of this saint was mixed with the commemoration of the birth of the Christian Savior. And they both symbolize the spirit of hope during the longest night, waiting for the sun, the Sol Invictus, to return. In one of my favorite books about Santa Claus, Terry Pratchett's The Hogfather, the spirit of the anthropomorphic death has to stand in for the Hogfather on Terry Pratchett's Discworld. At one point, Death asks Santa, saves the life of a dying girl. And when he's chastised by his assistant, Albert, he replies, the Hogfather gives presents, and there is no greater present than a future. I hope that the spirit of hope in the form of Santa Claus in many of his various forms and names is with you tonight and in the future as we embrace the new day after the longest night. Happy Yule to everyone, and thank you so much.
And now we welcome Joyce and River into the longest night.
Good evening, everybody. This is River and Reverend River Higginbotham from St. Louis, Missouri, and this is Joyce. And we are going to share with you a fun, traditional Welsh-tuned carol deck the halls. And if you know it, sing right along with us. Okay?
All right.
Deck the halls with boughs of holly, fa la 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 la. 'Tis the season to be jolly, fa la 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 la. Don we now our gay apparel, fa la 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 la. Troll the ancient Yuletide carol, fa la 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 la. See the blazing Yule before us, fa la 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 la. Strike the harp and join the chorus, fa la 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 la. Follow me in merry measure, fa la 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 la. While I tell of Yuletide treasure, fa la 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 la.
One more verse.
Fast away the old year passes, fa la 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 la. Hail the new year, lads and lasses, fa la 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 la. Sing we joyous all together, fa la 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 la. Heedless of the wind and weather, fa la 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 la. Mary,
Happy solstice.
happy solstice. We welcome the light returning.
And we welcome Shar into our longest night.
Hi there, everybody. Reverend Shar Bear here. I just love the fact that wintertime and the cold brings out all these incredible stories and storytelling. Yes, it's yummy. And I'm just going to offer a flip side perspective. We've been talking about the light and the light and the light. And I got a little tiny poem from Wendell Berry, who invites us to remember the blessing of the darkness, the dark and darkenment. And so it's really quick, but it says, "To Know the Dark" by Wendell Berry. And he says, "To go in the dark with a light is to know the light. If you go in the dark with a light, you know the light. So to know the dark, go dark. Go without sight and find that the dark, too, blooms and sings and is traveled by dark feet and dark wings." I think of that as I listen to all the night critters here, where we live in the traditional territories of the Awaswas and the Amatmutsun, in the coastal redwoods near Santa Cruz, the padding feet of the mountain lion, the great horned owls, the western screech, the little padding of the skunks, etc. Dark feet and dark wings. And one more little poem to share with you. Again, we talk about the longest night, but it's also the shortest day. So this is a poem called "The Shortest Day" by Susan Cooper. And it makes me think, as I look out onto the tree and the coastal horizon, of ancestral voices calling down from the ages, the land spirits, the ancestral spirits, as well as the animal spirits calling to us. And this poem says, "So the shortest day came, and the old year was dying. And everywhere down the centuries of the snow-cold world came people singing and dancing to drive the dark away. They lighted candles in the winter trees. They hung their homes with evergreen. They burned beseeching fires all night long to keep the old year alive. And when the New Year's sunshine blazed awake, they shouted, they reveled. Through all the frosty ages, you can hear them echoing behind us. Listen. All the long echoes sing the same delight, this shortest day, this longest night. As promise wakens in the sleeping land, they caroled, they feasted, they gave thanks, and dearly loved their friends. And they hoped for peace on earth, in the earth, from the earth, and for the earth. And so do we, here and now, this year, and every year. Welcome, Yule."
And we welcome Laurie into the longest night.
Hello, everyone. I'm Lori Skelton. I'm in Madison, Wisconsin, and I look forward to this program every year because very often it is my only time in a busy season to be still and to enjoy quiet and solitude. And I was thinking a lot about how do we celebrate that this year when too many of us have had solitude or isolation or stillness that was not of our choosing? How do we enjoy the quiet when it's not what we wanted and we don't know when we can let it go? So I turned to some of Henry David Thoreau's writing from the winter of 1843. These are excerpts from his A Winter Walk. The wind has gently murmured through the blinds or puffed with feathery softness against the windows and occasionally sighed like a summer zephyr, lifting the leaves along the livelong night. The meadow mouse has slept in his snug gallery in the sod. The owl has sat in a hollow tree in the depth of the swamp. The rabbit, the squirrel, and the fox have all been housed. The watchdog has lain quiet on the hearth, and the cattle have stood silent in their stalls. The earth itself has slept, as it were its first, not its last sleep, save when some street sign or woodhouse door has faintly creaked upon its hinge, cheering forlorn nature at her midnight work, advertising us of a remote inward warmth, a divine cheer and fellowship where gods are met together, but where it is very bleak for mortals to stand. But while the earth has slumbered, all the air has been alive with feathery flakes descending, as if some northern Ceres reigned, showering her silvery grain over all the fields. We sleep, and at length awake to the still reality of a winter morning. The snow lies warm as cotton or down upon the windowsill. The broadened sash and frosted panes admit a dim and private light which enhances the snug cheer within. There is a slumbering subterranean fire in nature which never goes out and which no cold can chill. What fire could ever equal the sunshine of a winter's day when the meadow mice come out by the wall sides and the chickadee lisps in the defiles of the wood? The warmth comes directly from the sun and is not radiated from the earth as in summer. And when we feel the beams on our backs as we are treading some snowy dell, we are grateful as for a special kindness and bless the sun which has followed us into that byplace. This subterranean fire has its altar in each person's breast, for in the coldest day and on the bleakest hill, the traveler cherishes a warmer fire within the folds of their cloak than is kindled on any hearth. In this lonely glen, with its brook draining the slopes, its creased ice and crystals of all hues, where the spruces and hemlocks stand up on either side, and the rush and sere wild oats and the rivulet itself, our lives are more serene and worthy to contemplate. In winter, we lead a more inward life. Our hearts are warm and cheery, like cottages under drifts, whose windows and doors are half concealed, but from whose chimneys the smoke cheerfully ascends. Take long walks in stormy weather or through deep snows in the fields and woods, if you would keep your spirits up. Deal with brute nature. Be cold and hungry and weary. We must go out and realign ourselves to nature every day. We must make root, send out some little fiber at least, even every winter day. I am sensible that I am imbibing health when I open my mouth to the wind. I am aware that I recover some sanity which I had lost almost the instant that I come outdoors. The things I have been doing have but a fleeting and accidental importance, however much people are immersed in them, and yield very little valuable fruit. I would fain have been wading through the woods and fields and conversing with the sane snow. I thus from time to time break off my connection with eternal truths and go with the shallow stream of human affairs. But when my task is done, with never failing confidence, I devote myself to the infinite again. There is nothing so sanative, so poetic, as a walk in the woods and fields, even now, when I meet none abroad for pleasure. In the street and in society, I am almost invariably cheap and dissipated. My life is unspeakably mean. No amount of gold or respectability would in the least redeem it. Dining with the governor or a member of Congress? But alone in distant woods or fields, I come to myself. I once more feel myself grandly related, and that cold and solitude are friends of mine. I thus dispose of the superfluous and see things as they are, grand and beautiful.
And we welcome Andrew into the longest night.
Yes, thank you. My name is Andrew Bear, coming to you from the coastal redwood forests of the Santa Cruz Mountains of California, traditional lands of the Awaswas Ohlone. The sun is now set, and we are entering the longest night of the year. In this time of darkness, many of us yearn for the return of the light. But let us not yearn for the light just yet, because the darkness has much to teach. At this time, we embrace the darkness, and we are embraced by the darkness. So I invite you to direct your attention to the winter ground beneath your feet and feel deep down into the underworld and the energies and beings who dwell within the body of the earth. Now direct your attention to the winter sky above. Saturn and Jupiter almost touching in the southwest skies, and the swirling stars and constellations above our heads, and sense that the stars are not only above our heads, but actually surround us and our planet and enfold us. Reaffirm your relationship to the directions, noting precisely where east, south, west, and north are in relationship to your physical body. Acknowledge this sixfold sphere that enfolds us: land, sky, east, south, west, and north, and also the center where you reside, the light of your being, which is enfolded by them all. So here we are, together, on this winter solstice in the northern hemisphere. Tonight, we turn to the direction of north, the direction of the element earth, the direction of deepest darkness. In the winter night sky in the north, we see the constellations Ursa Major and Minor, the Big and Little Dippers, and Draco, the dragon. Feel yourself supported by the earth below and to the winter night stars above, and allow yourself to relax into this darkest night's quiet repose. Open yourselves to the gifts of the darkness, the gifts of the north. Commune and attune to the north and to the darkness. As we attune to the directions of north, we are aware that nature's energy is withdrawn into the earth and the underworld. And so we also withdraw our energy deeper within our physical bodies. Allow the tissues, muscles, and nerves of your body to relax. no longer at the ready, but at rest, at ease, at peace. All is quiet and still. Within you, allow your breath to slow and be still for a few moments. And now, emerging from stillness, gently awaken your body and mind, refreshed and relaxed. If your eyes were closed, you may open them and bring your awareness once more to the land and the underworld below, the sky and the stars above, the directions of east, south, west, and north, and your presence, the light of your being in the center. Thank you.
And now we welcome Jerry into the longest night. And if Jerry is with us, we invite her to share with us reflections of joy.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jerry Hildebrand, and I'm a minister with Circle Sanctuary and the president of the Unitarian Universalist Covenant of Unitarian Universalist Pagans. And this poem is from the book Singing the Living Tradition, and it's a poem called Reflections on the Resurgence of Joy by Dory Jean Summers. How short the daylight hours have become, how gray the skies, how barren seem the trees. A damp and chilling wind has gripped my mind and made me gloomy too. But there is that in me that reaches up towards the light and laughter and bells and carolers, and knows that my religious myth and dream of reborn joy and goodness must be true, because it speaks to the truths of older myths. That light returns to balance darkness. Life surges in the evergreen and in us. As babes are hope and saviors of the world, as miracles abound in common things. Rejoice, rejoice, and join the gladness of the season. Blessed solstice to you all.
And now we continue with our culmination of the longest night. Entering into the longest night, entering into the birth of light, entering into the longest night, entering into the birth of light, entering into the longest night, entering into the birth of light. And I invite you to envision planet Earth at this solstice time, the time of winter solstice eve in the northern hemisphere and summer solstice eve in the southern hemisphere. And as you reflect on planet Earth, our home, I invite you to consider it glowing with the light of solstice joy, of solstice peace, of solstice love, of solstice well-being. And to guide us on this envisioning meditation, I invite Maven to gift us with some more harp music. And we, together as a community, gathered here in cyberspace in real time, and for all who will be joining us later. It is time to kindle solstice light on longest night. Solstice light on longest night. Solstice light on longest night. And as we kindle our candles, and all of you who are presenters, We are kindling our candles, and all of you who are watching live and later, we invite you to experience the solstice light within you and around you. What is a wish, a hope, a blessing that you'd like to bring into this new solar year? Focus on that as we share our light on this longest night. Solstice candles glowing bright, inspire us with your sacred light. Solstice circle, Yuletide rite, bless us on this longest night. Solstice candles glowing bright, inspire us with your sacred light. Solstice circle, Yuletide rite, bless us on this longest night. We give thanks to the sacred forces that we have called and worked with here tonight. We give thanks to the north, the east, the south, the west, to planet Earth, our home, to the cosmos that we are part of. We give thanks to the divine as one and as many as Great Spirit. We give thanks to the great circle of community and the interconnected circle of all life here on this planet and beyond. And we give thanks to all the presenters who have contributed tonight. We give thanks to all who have made this cyber cast possible. And we give thanks to all of you who have been watching live and later. We give thanks. We give thanks. We give thanks. Solstice, peace, joy, and wellness upon us. Solstice, peace, joy, and wellness within us. Solstice, peace, joy, and wellness all around us. Many blessings on this longest night and in the new solar year ahead. May we all be well and safe. We wish you all a Merry Solstice. We wish you a Merry Solstice. We wish you a Merry Solstice. We wish you a Merry Solstice and a Happy New Year. Bright blessings we bring to you and your kin. Bright blessings for Solstice and a Happy New Year. And as we are all visible, and we'll all unmute ourselves and make a joyful solstice noise.
Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year.
Merry Solstice.
Merry solstice and bright blessings to you all.
Happy.
Solstice.
Mary,
There we are.